For too long, the baby boomer generation has been silent about the issue of sexual harassment, and we have let our daughters down. Back in 2002, I had just been named the first woman editor of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and was visiting the city's key leaders. I met with one of the top community developers and leaders in town. We had a cordial talk about Atlanta's strengths and opportunities. As I prepared to leave, he grabbed me and kissed me on the mouth. I must have had a look of shock and or horror. He backed off and said, "That's how we say goodbye in the South." I just smiled and left. I chalked it up to the good old boy nature of my new city. Now I regret that I didn't speak up in that situation and many others. Many of us in our 50s and 60s were the first women to hold a variety of jobs. We broke many barriers. We were celebrated for breaking the glass ceiling. But there was a dirty little secret under all that glass breaking. By our silence and smiles, we were complicit. The newspaper business, Hollywood, the retail business, the healthcare business. The story was all the same. As women, we were demeaned, objectified, ignored, belittled, and more. If you go back to the 1970s, the newspaper business was like so many others. White men in positions of leadership and a few women in low-level jobs. Enter civil rights laws and changing views. The women before me took action, filing lawsuits against their employers, including the New York Times, Newsweek, and more. The Newsweek fight was turned into a series on Amazon called Good Girls Revolt. Those women won the battles and opened up the doors for us baby boomers. As young, ambitious women, we watched gratefully, but guardedly. We appreciated what they did, but we saw that the lawsuit filers and complainers were going nowhere in their careers. We stayed silent. I was part of a group of women who were editors of major newspapers. Over dinner and wine, we shared our stories and grievances. Among that group were some of the strongest, bravest, most powerful women I've been privileged to know. They filed complaints against major institutions in their cities. But we didn't stand up strongly and loudly enough. We mistakenly believed that when enough of us were in positions of authority, things would change. As the Fox News and Harvey Weinstein scandals have shown us, this strategy hasn't worked. Perhaps if we had been louder and yes, bitchier, maybe we would have accomplished more. I don't know. But I do know that by putting your head down and focusing on the work for the past 30 years hasn't worked. I now teach at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University, where almost 2/3 of the students are female. These students are brave, fearless, ambitious. Gretchen Carlson, who sued Fox News, tells young women to be fierce. Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, tells them to lean in. I agree with them both and would add, change culture. That's something women alone can't do. I would say to the men, you too.
I hate my vagina. I never wanted to be a woman. Why would I? I hate everything a woman stands for. It means shame and being raped and tortured. It means bowing down to men to submit to them. It means being weak. It means having to live up to a standard that is everywhere in the magazines in order to be loved. It means having to be pretty at all costs so a man can throw love my way. Any kind of love would be fine. Seeing women who are pregnant always leaves me with shame and disgust. I would tell my friends I never wanted to have kids, and it's gross and disgusting. I had a longing for a baby, but I probably could never have had one. The odds were slim. I saw women go nuts at a women's march and wearing pussy hats and talking about women's rights. I think this is ridiculous. I don't feel I'm worth anything. It hurts. It really does. You know the feeling that you get when you have sex with your father and your grandfather. Of course you don't. You don't know me. Because I am a ritual abuse survivor. I belong to them. I was owned by them. I was a slave to them. The image I have of myself is not mine, but it feels like it is. The only power I see in a woman is sex. I had tons of sex. How come I never felt more powerful after the high wore off? And the mascara running down my face. It only took a few minutes before I felt like a piece of shit again. And there's me, looking out a window to the world, not knowing how to fit in, how to be, how to act, what to say, how to be seen, pretending, wearing masks, having to hide so people won't know I don't know how to love them. I don't know how to get close. I don't want it to mean this, but it does. My question today, does it show on my face that I had sex with my father? Will they know? Can I tell them I have PTSD? Can I tell them I have anxiety, or will they leave? So many questions with no answers. And there's me. And the world is skewed. They look down upon me. They do. And then when I look in the mirror, and the only thing I want to see is, do I look pretty today? Do I look sexy today? Because this is what matters. Without my looks, I'm nothing. As a little girl in the schoolyard who played by herself, who ate lunch by herself, grew up in this woman's body, and I still sit by myself because I don't know how to sit with others. I'm too scared. PTSD, depression, self-loathing, anxiety, and fear, all because my father and grandfather decided to show me what their version of love was. Love is not having sex with your father. Thanks a bunch, Daddy, for the closeness, you motherfucker. The little parts of me will never forget how you fucked up my life forever. As I carve into my skin, just
I'm walking on a crowded street someplace outside of America. There are colorful cultures dressed in traditional garments. The exotic Mediterranean smells of vendors catches my large Italian nose. The crowd moves swiftly through the streets. I walk my usual slow. She, Lupita, dances in between the strangers. Her skin slightly dark, of Argentina descent. Her dance is perfect. She glides among the strangers, not touching a single extraneous body part. She is so pretty. So pretty. Even behind the veil, you see her beauty. Her eyes have the intensity of a flamingo dancer. Brilliantly and with exact percussion, she moves me away from the crowd, without anyone noticing. Gina, she whispers, in her broken, beautiful Argentina accent. It's me, Lupita. Shh, she says. As my mouth drops open, she puts her fingers gently on my lips. I'm kind of startled, wakefully startled, as if awakened from a deep sleep. I expected this mysterious visit. Yes, I did. Why am I then amazed? I look into her big blue eyes, the eyeliner so dark, rich, like dipped in wet chocolate. Her lashes divided as done by a metered mathematician. A note to self, it must be her. To make sure, I take note of the shape of her biceps. Well-rounded, sensually expressive, curvy, the strength of her core, Pilates. Yes, it's Lupita. She teaches Pilates. Gina, take this, she says. Run through the streets, run. Go someplace quiet and open it. I can hardly believe it's her. I can hardly believe it. Our hands cross over each other as I grab the brown cloth bag. I want to hold on to her. She slips away. Before I can take a second breath, Lupita disappears into the crowd. This time I'm moving as fast as I can, trying to keep up with her. I'm a staccato dancer, filled with a mind of chaos. I'm shaking. I've lost sight of her. I look up at the sky as it darkens. I see fists of anger in the clouds. Rage, complete insane rage. What does this mean? I keep moving, bouncing through the crowd awkwardly, gangly hitting people with my off-balance gait. My body parts are flinging all over the place. I keep running, screaming at the thundering skies. All at once, I hear a red fire truck. It silences me in my steps. It pushes the crowd away. Driving urgently in front of me, I start again, following her. I see a glimpse of her shadow. She's ahead of the red fire engines. A raven in flight. No one can hold her down. I'm screaming at the thundering skies. Where is she going? Slow her down. You cannot wash away my Lupita. All at once, screech. My head hurts. I'm silenced in my steps once again. The scene changes. From outside America into the United States. What the hell is going on here? The fire truck stops at a large house in the middle of the Arizona desert. Cactus and sweet water. How? Why? Where am I? A vision, a dream, a wakeful sleep. It's November 2012. Lupita's youngest son, Salvador, opens the door of the house. I heard 2 bullets, he says. He's shaking as if having a stroke. His lower lip drops, his body falls limp. In the master bedroom, the police officer finds Lupita and her husband lying in bed. Pool of blood. A moment of hesitation before the officers declare murder, suicide. Appears the husband shot his wife and then killed himself. that she was not a victim. You've got the wrong woman. You've got the wrong house. I don't know what to do next. Taking a few breaths, I open the brown cloth bag. Lupita gives me tons of American dollars. She's written a note to me. Gina, take this money. Find your own niche. Stay out of the system. Dance, Gina, dance. Don't worry about me. I shall be dancing right behind you.
There are few things in life more important to a young boy than beating his older brother at something. Don't know what it is. Maybe it's some kind of leftover primal alpha instinct where you're trying to dominate all the other males in your area. Maybe it's some kind of pseudo-Freudian response to trying to be the heir to the throne and not fall to his Remus to his Romulus. Maybe it's because he would always make you play Mortal Kombat with him when you were kids, but never let you learn the moves first, and he would just push you into a corner and do Sub-Zero's freeze move on you over and over and over until you died. Now it's like the bastard that is! Whatever it is. It's inarguable that you should show off to your older brother to prove that you are the man. And nothing says you're a man like sex and violence. Now, violence, he had me beat most of the time. He had 5 years on me, couldn't do much about it. Not that I didn't try. There was one time where I snuck up behind him, and I was about 9 years old, and tried to smother him with a pillow. And he grabbed a remote control and bashed me across the face. Got me. But sex, that was our great equalizer. Because we learned as we grew older, neither of us was very good with girls. But I did have an advantage. By the time I got to high school, sex was becoming cool again. Yes, the stuffiness of the 80s had faded away, and people were starting to loosen up a little bit more. There was a time that our high school was rumored to be the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country, so yay me. Now, in relation, I was already on a roll. I'd had my first girlfriend younger, had my first kiss younger, I had my first conversation with my parents about how it was real love and they just didn't understand, so they needed to stay out of our way younger. But sex, real, live, physical, penis and vagina doing something together, whatever that might be, sex! That was my holy grail. Now, started to reach deadline, found out that my brother had had sex 2 weeks before his 18th birthday. Don't ask how I figured it out. It's better if you just know that it happened. But the deadline was starting to approach for me, and to be fair, my resources were starting to get a little scarce. I was pale, and hairy, and awkward, and geeky, and somehow chubby and scrawny at the same time. Needless to say, pickings were slim. Takes a special kind of girl to want to give herself sexually to something that looks like the cross between a Geico caveman and some snickerdoodle cookie dough. And, of course, some of the less shallow girls were still saving themselves, which we blamed on the fucking Disney Channel at the time. But 1 week before the deadline was coming up, a light of naked, misguided sunshine shone down onto me. My first girlfriend, who I tried to be with the rest of my life, but actually tried to be with me the rest of my life, she came back into town after moving away for a couple years. Our bad terms had faded, the distance had been good for us, and most importantly, she had learned to become gloriously immoral. She came back for a visit just in time to be seduced onto the floor of my shower, wedged between a crusty linoleum wall and an optimistically flailing young boy. We kind of absentmindedly pumped at each other for a couple minutes, not really making eye contact, so we both just kind of stopped, got out, got dressed, and never spoke to each other again. That was actually one of the most disappointing days of my life, not just for the obvious reasons. But while I was even there, I realized that it all felt so average. Like, I remember flashing in my head, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why did I build this up so much? How does this make me any more of a man? And I talk to my brother a lot more now. And girls never really come into it. But you know what? We're both men.
I work
college kid who had landed a pretty sweet gig working supply chain at a warehouse. It was hard work, but eventually I made a name for myself. People knew I was smart, so I got to do more, have some freedom. I could even stay late and earn some overtime without anyone questioning it. I had it good. During that same time, our warehouse was even busier than usual, so the higher-ups flew in a team from corporate to help out. That's how I met Chris. I never really knew his age, but if I had to guess, I'd say late 50s. I was 22. He had been with the company forever, but since he was in a different department, we never really talked much. You know, just the usual hi and bye. But on his last day in office, he came by while I was closing up. After a little casual conversation, he asked if we could be friends on Facebook so he could get to know me better. I know, get to know me better. Sounds like a red flag now, but honestly, I was friends with lots of my coworkers on Facebook, so it wasn't an unusual request. The next day, he sent me a picture of the landscape on his drive home. I think I said something like, "Cool, where's that?" You know, typical response. He answered, and from there we had a totally ordinary conversation. Went something like this. "So, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from blah, blah, blah." "I have a pit bull named Sparky. Do you have any pets?" "Oh yeah, I have a blah, blah, blah." "Can I fantasize about you?" What? Who asks someone that? I thought we were talking about our pets. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I was shocked. So he just keeps going. How he's going to unbutton and unzip my sexy little shorts. Next, he takes off my cute company shirt. A t-shirt. Eventually, I'm naked. And, well, when he was finished, he asked if I was into it. Apparently not responding for half an hour wasn't answer enough. I told him no, I definitely wasn't. Radio silence. And then I started to wonder, how could I even go back to work tomorrow? Do I tell anyone? What would my boyfriend say? We didn't really have an HR department I could go to. Would they blame me for giving him my number? The next morning, Chris sent me a message saying, "Sorry, were you not into last night?" I burst into tears just as my GM was giving a tour to a bunch of new hires. He took one look at my puffy eyes and told me to meet him in his office ASAP. When I finally got my tear ducts under control, I decided to tell him everything, even show him the messages, because fuck it couldn't get any worse. At first, he was stunned, then angry. Told me he'd like to take Chris out back and beat him to hell if it was legal. And honestly, I was relieved. It meant he didn't think it was my fault. It truly wasn't my fault. The next day, the owner and the COO flew in to meet with me as well. As we sat down, the owner started talking about how he valued second chances, how they were really important to him since he had gotten a second chance and turned his life around from drugs. With this philosophy in mind, I was given two options. I could let him stay on the grounds that he would never come to my location and get some kind of therapy, or I could have him fired. There was no doubt in my mind. I wanted him gone. After that, things were fine. I got a promotion. I was genuinely in a good place. For a while, at least. One morning, my GM called me into his office where our new HR guy was waiting. Not a good sign. As soon as he started talking about how our owner valued second chances, I already knew where the conversation was headed. They therapy he had been doing and the conditions that would be in place. But the decision was still up to me. So, I went home and thought, am I ruining his life if I say no? Am I being petty since I'll probably never see him anyways? I mean, maybe his therapy worked. Maybe it didn't. Our society wouldn't give second chances to rapists. Or would it? Somehow I knew I'd regret whatever decision I made. So, the next day, I went back into his office. Look, I don't know if his therapy worked. I don't know if I even believe in second chances. But here's the thing. I believe in this company. I believe that you'll keep me safe, and I trust you. So, sure, hire him back. Am I okay with it? No. But I trust you. He seems surprised. Maybe I let Chris off the hook too easy. Maybe I thought if I just let him come back, it would finally be over and I could move on. Maybe the fact that they wanted to rehire him in the first place meant my opinion never really mattered to them. I don't know if things will ever get better for women at work. But then again, they have to. All the movements and the marches and the rallies, they have to mean something. It has to get better. Because if we can't trust that people will listen and want to help us, what's the point of speaking up?
Okay, I just got a gym membership finally. I mean, I had one for a while, but with work and the move and school, it was the last thing on my mind. So I was paying for it, and I was not going because obviously, look at me. So I canceled it. But now, I'm getting used to my new place. I'm kind of getting into more of a routine at work and school, so I figured, what the hell? I found this really cool place. It's kind of expensive, but it has everything you can ever put inside of a gym. And, you know, talking to the membership guy and touring the gym, it's actually super exciting. You know, I started planning what type of workout classes I was going to try, and thinking about the type of protein shakes I was going to make when I got home, and how I was going to take pictures of myself every day, and then post them online so people could see me losing weight. I was going to be a brand new me. Okay. Anyways, so I signed up, and on the first day of working out, I hopped on an elliptical, which is a bold choice, I know. I mean, look at me. Can you imagine, like, how much of this body would move with every step? So I tried to take it slow, and that didn't help because I could still hear the machine creak with every step. Because, well, I'm a plus-size woman riding a standing-up bicycle. And of course, you know, I was walking while everyone else was fucking running. I love to run. It used to run. But now I'm walking. Just doing whatever you can because that's what you're supposed to do when you work out, right? Looking around, everyone is in fucking incredible shape because it's a fancy gym where people come to show off their bodies and compare gun sizes with other beautiful, like-minded people. Well, I started to second-guess my judgment and excitement for the place when this random guy, he spots me from across the room on an elliptical a couple of rows away. And he's probably in his 50s or whatever, but still, obviously, in good shape. Anyways, he uses his index finger and gestures me over to him. And, you know, God forbid he interrupts his own workout. I know how this may sound. He's probably going to say some awful thing about how I don't belong here and how my machine is making ungodly noises because I'm too fat for it. Anyways, he pulls me to the side and tells me that he wants to tell me something. He says that he's proud of me for coming to the gym and knows that I have a long, tough road ahead of me, but if I keep up the great work, I'll be in shape in no time. And then he actually saw me really struggling today, but if I keep at it, I'll be like him and all the other beautiful people who belong in this gym in no time. Well, after our little chat, I worked out for as long as I could, and then I went home. And all I had for the rest of the day was water. I mean, I think that guy would have been proud of me, right? I get it. I know he was trying to do something positive. I know he felt like it was important to encourage me. But that is still the same condescending bullshit. The words might have been nicer, but he was still going out of his way to remind me that I was different, that I didn't belong, that I needed to change. Would he have said this to me if I was 20 pounds overweight and not, instead of whatever I am? Would he have said this if I was a man? I don't know why people constantly feel the need to remind me that I'm not like everyone else. As if I'm not reminded of it 1,000 times a day already. Whenever I have to pick a chair to spin, I have to choose wisely because certain armrests don't fit my size, like the way I wish they did. Whenever I have to fly anywhere, I have to be careful because as soon as I board the plane, I can see people's eyes on my body type and hoping to God that I don't sit next to them because if I did, I would clearly take up too much space than I'm worth. And anytime my parents call me, they always ask me, oh, how is your weight and how are you working on it? And what kind of crazy diets and crazy fads they think I should try because I'm not normal or healthy, even though my doctor says I'm healthy. And my vitals look great for being the fat piece of shit that I apparently am. could go on and on about how my weight affects people in our community. And I've done that before, and it's not the point. If you're going to take time out of both of our days to tell me that's a good thing, that I'm trying to change how I look, all you're doing is reminding me is that how I look is still not good enough. I know I'm different. I don't want to be. I'm not trying to be.
I had a dream I was dying. It was as if I was crying. I walked down the street. I said I was a damn good writer. Dad said, okay, sure, prove it to me. Oppressed, repressed, obsessed, made to undress. Daddy, why walk with me when you know you will leave? Why walk with me and try to sell me off as your daughter when you know I'm more than that? Secrets. Secrets, how they weep. Of a girl's life with so many creeps. Walls, they speak. Wonder if they still whisper. After all these years, they still talk of grief. Unknown dreams. Damn you, Daddy. I asked for love and I got more than I wanted. Shallow birds, digging their nests, tucking away little ones, stabbing deep in my chest, raging war inside myself. Screams so deep, yet no one came. This is my show, Daddy, not yours. Don't steal it from me. Mommy looks on, hating herself, knowing she passed on her daughter to be raped just like she probably was. She left her life as a Vegas showgirl, took her final bow, applauds as she exits stage left, with her little secrets bouncing off her high heels. With knives of betrayal and a flood of red blood that was shed from my body, they tore into my body as if I was a rag they needed to clean themselves with. Did they think I was dead and wouldn't notice? How can a child at age 10 be a woman? Are you kidding me? I'm not a fucking woman, asswipe. I'm a child that's bleeding. A stranger on the end of the phone. I was 9 years old. Oppressed, repressed, depressed, stuck in a web of lies, betrayal, stress, wishing I was dead. You told me I sounded sexy. Said you couldn't resist and just wanted to kiss me. Even then, I wasn't free. Underneath the "get the fuck off me, you dirty pig" was a smirk of "I know you want me." I hang up the phone. He's satisfied. He begs me to call back tomorrow as he needs more. I say, in my sexiest 9-year-old voice, I will. I know you want more. As I hang up the phone, I'm pleased with myself. I go into my room and cut away what's left.
I love surprises. I'm the queen of surprises, really. Surprise gifts, surprise parties, surprise road trips, surprise endings, surprise everything. I get it from my parents. They'd surprise my brother and I with things all the time. They would surprise each other. This turned me into a lean, mean surprising machine as a young adult. Okay, so one summer, when I was in college, my grandmother pointed out over the phone that I haven't been home in a while. It was at that moment I knew a surprise was in order. I quickly made up like a garbage excuse as to why I wouldn't be able to for a while, and that was that. I had rehearsal or something. I even convinced this new guy that I was dating to come with me. Okay, so this guy wasn't what you would call organized or reliable or sober usually. But if there's one thing I love more than surprises, it's bringing home new friends to meet my family. I thought it would be a good idea to, take the back way home through Waynesburg. I just love the beautiful middle of nowhere Western Virginia / Pennsylvania. But it was Waynesburg where disaster struck. I got a flat tire. So I pulled off into what I thought was an abandoned junkyard and panicked because what else are you supposed to do? I could probably figure out how to change a flat tire. I mean, I'm a smart cookie. I know how to use power tools and stuff. But in the name of the surprise, I was in a dress and heels. And I was with a guy who probably couldn't figure out what a screwdriver was when he wasn't baked like a cake. And my spare tire was flat anyway, so this was going to be a fun afternoon. I hated to ruin the surprise, but I swallowed my pride and called my loving father. He wouldn't be able to come for another hour or so, so we just had to wait it out. And not more than 10 minutes later, this Oldsmobile pulls up, and these two grungy-looking guys come out and ask us what's going on. We were skeptical, of course. Oh, I just have a flat tire. We're just waiting for my dad. A flat tire, you say? I can help with that. The spare's flat, too. It's okay. You need air in the spare? And then he picks up my tire, goes to his car, and drives away. I didn't know what to do, so I just let it happen. There's no need to get confrontational. And then not much later, this guy comes back with my inflated spare, and he starts jacking up my car and changing the tire, and then talks, and talks, and talks, and talks. So, I saw you standing there on the road, and, I would pray to God that someone would help me, my wife, or my daughter, and, you look like you just came from church, and I missed church today, so maybe this will help me missing church today. There's no reason for you to be standing in the middle of the road if I'm able to help you, and on and on and on he goes. Soon he finishes, wipes his dirty hands on his jeans. I shook his hand, thanking him profusely, and I'm super grateful to get back on the road and maybe a little guilty that I was so awkward the whole time. And then out of nowhere, he looks my boyfriend dead in the eyes and says, "Remember, that's not the right thing to do, but the white thing to do." And then he gets in his car, leaves without another word. Surprise?
Navigating complex social situations in today's society requires poise, grace, tact, and knowledge. Understanding potential positive and negative outcomes will help one take decisive action when necessary. For example, a brief city commute on the bus provides many opportunities for social interaction. Let us dissect one such interaction, made famous by American media. Black male, white female. It starts with a glance as the bus shakes its way down the road. Our white female subject looks up to catch a glimpse of our black male subject swiftly moving to an open seat in front of, behind, or right next to her. Instinctively, she takes a second look, not long enough to be considered staring, and certainly no eye contact, or limited eye contact, or just enough eye contact so as not to require a nod and smile, which is an oxymoron, because a nod and smile are never required. They're a courtesy, one that's not often afforded to our black male subject. And his response is critical and must be delivered promptly. For as the daylight wanes or the location becomes more deserted, the need for a correct and quickly delivered response multiplies exponentially. Not 50 years ago, a lingering glance could be considered malcontent, aggression, a lurid advance. And such judgment, not 50 years ago, could be a death sentence for our black male subject. And if not 50 years ago, then yesterday. And if not yesterday, then today. Recommendations. Response A. A brief pause. A smile. A bow. And a cordial greeting. Hello. How are you? Good evening. Pardon me. Most courteous. Most polite. Most comforting and respectful. Our black male subject is deemed safe, respectable, appreciative of the social graces that are required of him. Expect responses to range from similarly polite and cordial, good evening, pardon me, to nominal, the aforementioned nod and smile, to non-existent, a turn of the head, a blank stare, or staring, which in and of itself can be startling, as if the act of speaking was so unexpected, an oddity to be observed. Expect responses from other individuals on the bus to range from nominal to non-existent. It's critical to understand the responses of the crowd because they will give you subtle cues as to the direction the situation is turning, positive to negative. Similarly, the crowd can influence the situation in the way that they respond. A benign interaction is only made more so by a disinterested populace. And understand, all of the above responses are considered positive outcomes. Response B, not recommended. Silence. Most discomforting. Counter responses range from indifference, looking back out the window, a swift return to the book, phone, the back of that guy's head, or whatever hangnail she may be able to get a hold of, to indignance, side glances, narrowed eyes, stares that scream, how rude, what manners, just who does he think he is? All the way to outright fear. Noticeable by the actions of our white female. Embraced purses, gripped bags, a view of all accessories to make sure everything's accounted for. The clutch! We've all seen it before. We've all done it ourselves, male and female alike, for good reason. There is real danger in the world. I know this to be true. Real danger comes to us in all shapes, sizes, and colors. It comes to us as friend, as foe, even to serve and protect. And we all have the right to be safe from danger. Understand, being deemed a danger is the worst possible outcome for our black male subject. As before mentioned, it's important to recognize the responses of the crowd. For even in this ambiguous situation, their response is key to telling you the direction of this interaction. Initial interaction between two people. Silence from the male. Silence from the female. The clutch! It can send a convincing yet unclear signal. Maybe she's just making sure she has all of her things. No danger there. Maybe she's had some traumatic event in the past that could be quite tragic. Or maybe, just maybe, she doesn't feel safe. Maybe she's scared of this silent, swift citizen moving quickly to a seat, downcast eyes, didn't even look in my direction. Where is he going to? Where is he coming from? Bringing his troubles with him? Just who the hell does he think he is? Addendum to response B. Mitigations for negative outcomes. Even such a tenuous situation can be mitigated with quick action. After noticing the initial response or assessing the negative responses from the crowd, a quick smile, a jovial look, and a cordial greeting can bring one right back into positive territory. Alternatively, a slip, trip, fall, or injury may distract from the initial negative response, humanize our black male subject, and invite consolement. A well-timed pratfall is recommended. However, your actions must be practiced so that they are not deemed unintentional, so that they are deemed unintentional, lest you invite sardonic or incredulous responses. Fight fire with fire, the bloody nose tactic, these are not recommended. Oftentimes, these tactics will invite others to take sides, to join in on the argument, spiraling everything into a much more negative situation than expected. And as we have seen in American, if not global media time and again, this situation does not end well for our black male subject. Ladies and gentlemen, there's so much more to learn, but our lecture ends here tonight. In sum, navigating complex social situations requires one to be aware of their environment, to their own reactions, as well as the reactions of the crowd. Positive outcomes can often be reached. However, when all else fails, just put on a happy face or fall to your knees.
I was a tour guide for 6 years, but I don't do that anymore. I recently moved to a new city and was having a hard time finding a job. Everybody kept saying, "Why don't you just do the tour guide thing? You're really good at that." No, I say too much history. You can learn the history, they say. But that's not what I mean. I spent 6 years in San Francisco going around and around in a loop. Fisherman's Wharf is where the tourists are, so it's where the double-decker bus tours always start. The appeal of Fisherman's Wharf is you can slurp on some chowder or crack open some Dungeness crab while you bark at the sea lions. There's some history here, but it mostly has to do with labor unions and police brutality. So buy some saltwater taffy and check out the Wax Museum, or line at the bottom where my boss puts his arm around my shoulders and whispers and winks that I owe him every time I take a sick day or request my paycheck. Heading south, we get to North Beach, which isn't actually a beach. It used to be the shoreline of San Francisco. Everything north of it is landfill, and everybody's just waiting for that big one to hit to see if Fisherman's Wharf ends up in the bay and leave North Beach to be the most north and the most beach thing again. I'd be okay with that, because it would bury the memory of when I found out that my male coworkers were being paid an extra $5 per hour more than me. I had to get one of them to negotiate on my behalf, and when he succeeded, he asked me for a hug and a kiss. I walked away, but he called after me and asked me why he couldn't get up inside me. The beautiful church of Saints Peter and Paul is where Joe DiMaggio wanted to marry Marilyn Monroe, but he had already been married there to his first wife, and the Catholic Church doesn't acknowledge divorce. So they ended up getting married at the City Hall, where Harvey Milk, the first openly gay politician, was shot and killed a couple decades later. And the Church of Saints Peter and Paul has a framed picture on display of Joe DiMaggio and his first wife at a spite. These stories aren't related, except that they happened in the same place, and they're ridiculous, and so is the notion of time. There's a statue in the middle of Union Square depicting Lady Victory, a sexy tribute to the Battle of Manila Bay during the Spanish-American War. The woman who posed for that statue, Alma de Bretteville, was once considered the most beautiful woman in town. When she was just 19, the city's richest man wanted to marry her. He was a 56-year-old sugar baron, and she turned him down. He pursued her for 5 years, until she finally gave in. She was quoted as saying, "I would rather be an old man's plaything than a young man's slave." That story is where the term sugar daddy comes from. Down the street, there's a cute alley called Maiden Lane. During the gold rush, there weren't a lot of women in town, so the prostitutes of Maiden Lane were the richest in town. So the other women would walk by to sneak a peek at the latest fashions. An outstanding woman could eventually buy a beautiful dress there and then go home and sit in her father's bay window, catching the eye of passing bachelors. My boss dragged me to a cafe on this street after I told him I didn't want to get breakfast with him. Well, as we were eating, he kept touching my knee and asked me to pay for breakfast. Never paid me back. Tony Bennett actually left a hand-painted heart sculpture on one of the corners of Union Square. You can take a picture if you want with it. Hashtag left my heart in San Francisco. It'll actually give me a second to talk to my driver, who's on his 5th 16-hour shift of the week. He lives across the bay and was recently released from jail because he had weed in his car when he was 18. He doesn't get paid overtime, which is super illegal, but he won't say anything because this was the only company that would hire him, and he has a kid to feed. He slept for 3 hours today, 2 at home and 1 in the parking lot before work. He and I split our tips equally, even though the woman who trained me told me on my first day that I should give him what I think he deserves. So, don't forget, we accept tips and gratuities. I'm not gonna mention it twice because I know it makes people uncomfortable and we got a memo about it. The Golden Gate Bridge is a breath of fresh air. So long as it's not covered in fog, and so long as nobody asks me about the suicides that happen here on a weekly basis. I love this bridge. I think it may be a portal to another universe. Unfortunately, so do the people who come to jump. But more people come during really alive moments, people from all over. I've crossed it no less than 15,000 times. I did some rough math once, and that's a conservative number. The bridge is what gives me the energy to do this. So, I'm going to let you enjoy it properly. I take the temperature of the crowd and determine which San Francisco theme song I should play on the sound system to make this moment as magical for you as possible. So while you're making memories with Jefferson Airplane or Otis Redding, while you're playing the game I taught you with your head up high and your hands in the wind, and you can't look any further because your head won't go back anymore, I keep an eye on the people below us on the walkway who are A, alone, B, without a camera, C, crying. Because I have Bridge Patrol on speed dial, and I can call them real quick to report a possible jumper without anybody noticing. There's a tunnel on the way back from the bridge where I encourage people to scream out their vacation frustrations so they can just let go and have fun. Kids love it, but I'm usually the one screaming the loudest. I almost prematurely died right in front of Janis Joplin's house when a new driver, who hadn't been trained yet, took a wrong turn down a street with low-hanging electrical cables. One cable hit my hat and electrocuted me into a doubled-up position. Good thing, too, because there were 3, even more, lower-hanging cables that whizzed by my head and possibly could have decapitated me. Back at the wharf, you can see Coit Tower, which was built for Lillian Hitchcock Coit, America's first female firefighter. She was also famously a cross-dresser, possibly gay or trans. But I'm not supposed to tell you that because a tourist complained and we got a memo. Back at the street where Robin Williams used to mine for people's spare change before he made it big and killed himself, I told my boss I got electrocuted. He blamed the driver, then he blamed me. Then he sent out a memo saying that tour guides aren't allowed to stand and talk, and that's always been the rule. Well, this is the Wild West, and I can see all of time, so that's a lie, and there are no rules. If you want to walk down the street a ways after the tour's done, you'll end up at Ghirardelli Square. And Tony Ghirardelli built his chocolate empire during the gold rush because he realized he could make his fortune on selling temporary bliss to the men who were digging up nothing. Like the women of Maiden Lane, except legitimate. Speaking of fortune, one more quick fact. Fortune cookies were invented in San Francisco by a Japanese-American family who were placed in an internment camp by the US government during World War II, and their company was handed over to a Chinese-American family. I recently got a fortune cookie with my Chinese takeout, and I swear to God, it said, "You will meet an evil man soon." So, that's why I don't do the tour guide thing anymore.
You're not working hard enough. Addiction is a disease.
You're fine.
Aggressive.
You're so upbeat and happy.
Blank stare.
Be a role model. So many people love you. Speak up. You have so much to be grateful for.
Defiant.
You speak in platitudes.
Do you want me to yell at you?
Use your words.
Liar.
What is your name? Predisposed to addiction. Count blessings.
Shouting is the only thing you understand.
Keep counting.
Attitude.
Blank stare.
Be assertive.
Distrustful of men. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Remember who you are.
Say what you mean.
Remember where you come from.
You're not saying anything.
Could be an addict.
Thinks she's too good for us.
A disease.
You can't even have a real conversation.
Just walk away.
In your head.
Ungrateful.
Stop lying.
You are not listening. You don't listen unless I'm yelling.
Put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there.
Lazy.
Why, Ada?
Listen to me.
Aggressive, defiant, attitude.
Ada,
Aggressive, defiant attitude.
Nothing is wrong.
you're not depressed.
Get it together.
What's wrong?
Act. Are you even listening?
Self-discipline.
What is your problem? Aggressive, defiant, attitude.
Addict.
Nothing. Ada. Amanda.
Depression.
PTSD.
Addiction is genetic.
You're so passive aggressive.
Only in your head. You don't seem depressed.
Stand up for yourself.
You don't know what real trauma is.
I have to yell for you to hear me.
You're fine.
You're not depressed. Defiant.
It's a choice.
Listen to me.
Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You only listen when I'm screaming.
Pity party.
Why are you giving me that blank stare?
Childhood addict.
It's seasonal.
You're not working hard enough. Addiction is a disease.
You're fine.
Aggressive.
You're so upbeat and happy.
Blank stare.
Be a role model. So many people love you. Speak up. You have so much to be grateful for.
Defiant.
You speak in platitudes.
Do you want me to yell at you?
Use your words.
Liar.
What is your name? Predisposed to addiction. Count blessings.
Shouting is the only thing you understand.
Keep counting.
Attitude.
Blank stare.
Be assertive.
Distrustful of men. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Remember who you are.
Say what you mean.
Remember where you come from.
You're not saying anything.
Could be an addict.
Thinks she's too good for us.
A disease.
Can't even have a real conversation.
Just walk away.
In your head.
Ungrateful.
Stop lying.
You are not listening. You don't listen unless I'm yelling.
Put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there.
Lazy.
Why, Ada?
Listen to me.
Aggressive, defiant, attitude.
Ada,
Aggressive, defiant attitude.
Nothing is wrong.
you're not depressed.
Get it together.
What's wrong?
Act. Are you even listening?
Self-discipline.
What is your problem? Aggressive, defiant,